So get to work. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. This is the Grand Forks City Council's Committee of the Whole from Monday, August 26, 2024. Under item 1, call to order. 1.1, welcome and roll call.
Weigel. Selsky. Here. Berg. Here. Lenski. Here. Friedels.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Veen. Here. We have quorum.
Great. Under item 2.1, reappointment to the Downtown Design Review Board. Anyone have any issues with Bill Schoen being reappointed to Downtown Design Review? Mr. Veen?
I second.
Move approval by Veen, second by Osowski. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks. Item 2.2, plans and specs, project 88, 34, and 35. Districts 610 and 361, sanitary sewer and water main, Crary's 12th edition from 57th to 500 feet south. Mr. Grasser.
Committee here. This is simply the next step in the district that we created last cycle, installing some sanitary and water main for a new development on Crary's 12th. So this would be approving the plans and specs and authorizing us to move to bidding.
Any questions for Mr. Grasser?
I move approval.
Moved by Osowski, second by Berg. Further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.3, Public Works Operations Surplus Equipment. Who wants to sell a Ford F-150 and some rear and loaders?
I move approval.
Moved by Osowski, second by Berg. Further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks. Item 2.4, Public Works Operations Street Division Salt for Ice Control bid 2024-9, 24-25 winter season. Ms. Lipsch, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Sandy and committee members. The request before you is to award bid 2024-9 for rock salt to NSC Minerals in the amount of $129.50 per ton for ice control. The salt will be used for street ice control applications in the 24-25 winter season. The city received one bid. I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Ms. Linsky.
What was it the cost last year?
I believe it was $135 a ton.
Oh, so it actually went
It
down.
actually went down.
I'll make a
Well, moved by Linsky. Is there a second? Friedolfs. Thank you, sir.
I
Further
guess I
comment? Yes,
have a
Mrs.
question.
Osowski?
What's the ratio between sand and salt that we use?
I don't know that offhand. I know they mix it with the sand. I don't know the ratio. I know in some instances we use straight salt.
Okay, do you guys mix it? Or does
Yes.
it come mixed? Okay, thank you.
Great. Further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks. 2.5, Public Works Operations Contingent Snow Hauling and Spring Cleanup Bid 2024-11 for the 24-25 season. Ms. Lipsch.
This request is to award the bid of 2024-11 for contingent snow hauling and spring cleanup to Gowan Construction. The city received one bid. The snow removal option will be utilized only as needed. The spring cleanup will be used for 1 week in May of 2025, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions from Ms.
approval.
Lipsch? Moved by Osowski, second by Friedolfs. Thank you. Further comment? Yes, Ms. Linsky?
just curious. So spring cleanup, I thought that was done by the city.
It is done by the city, but a couple years ago, we started using outside trucks to help us haul it to the landfill. What we were finding is there was a lot of lag time, so people on the street were waiting for trucks to come back, and so this has really sped up the process. We now typically finish on Friday at noon,
Perfect.
where in other years, they've gone back to the next week.
Thank you.
Great. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 2.6, Public Works Operations Street Division Street Marking Paint Bid 2024-12. Quotes for the 25 season. Ms. Lipsch.
This request before you is to award the quote based off the bid 2024-12 for street marking paint to Diamond Vogel in the amount of $52,240. There were no bids received when this was let, and so we reached out to the two companies that typically bid, and they simply forgot. So we used the same bid forms and got quotes from them instead. So we used the same specifications. So we received two quotes, one from Sherwin-Williams and one from Diamond Vogel. Sherwin-Williams does not meet the paint specifications in quite a few areas, so we are requesting award to Diamond Vogel, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Yes, Ms. Wasowski?
Move approval.
Move approval, second by Berg. Further comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Lensky?
I know we've talked about this in the past, but could you real quick tell us what streets get painted for crosswalks specifically and what doesn't? Is it within a school or a city building?
I don't know specifically. I believe that it's the mains and secondaries, and then in the school areas is the ones that we focus on.
And is it within so far of a school?
I would assume so. It's probably within a few blocks.
Councilmember Linsky, I think it's whatever that safe route to school is for that area.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, good questions. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Ms. Lipsch. Item 2.7, Red River Valley Water Supply Attorney Engagement Letter Approval. Mr. Phelan.
Council President Sandy, as you recall, we did ask for you to move forward with some technical review, and you allowed us to hire Precision Water Resources Engineering, and they're currently looking at the various appendices regarding this project participation agreement as part of the Red River Valley project, which is about a $1.2 billion project. Grand Forks is about a 17% of that project. We're here in front of you this evening, Dan Gostet, City Attorney Dan Gostet and I also think it's in our best interest that we'd hire a technical advisor on the legal side. And Mr. Brian Nazarenas is with us, and he's with Nazarenas, Stack, and Wallenbacher law firm. And he came to us per recommendation also from our technical advisor that's currently reviewing these various appendices. He comes with a long time working on regional water supply projects in the western United States, similar to what we're proposing here. So number one, we wanted to ask for your approval. And if you're so inclined, we'd like to introduce Mr. Nazarenas to you, since you'll be seeing him over the next year as part of the review of this really important agreement, and working with Mr. Gostet and the entire city administrative team. So if you don't mind, Mr. Sandy, if we could have Mr. Nazarenas just introduce himself and, how he got to the city council meeting this evening.
Certainly, Mr. Nazarenas. After you, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Nazarenas, a water rights attorney based out of Colorado, done representations throughout the West, and have practiced water law my entire career. Look forward, assuming I'm retained for this matter. It looks like a fascinating matter and a host of interesting issues. But this is in my wheelhouse of expertise. Have worked on complex water transactions and litigations and negotiations, and specifically involving Corps of Engineers and Bureau of Reclamation projects, which this project involves. So that's a short rundown of my experience. Be happy to answer any questions, but again, assuming that you engage me, I'm looking forward to working with your Mr. Phelan and Mr. Gaustad and any other staff, and moving ahead and helping the city on this project.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions for either Mr. Nazarenas or Mr. Phelan on the recommendation? Mr. Veen, questions,
I
comments?
just want to articulate the importance of entering into this contract to have the legal part of this agreement reviewed. I don't know of very many water agreements that are going to be as complex as the one that we are, with so many players that are involved. We mentioned the Bureau of Reclamation, the Corps of Engineers, State of North Dakota Water Commission, all of the water rights that are aligned with the rights behind the Bald Hill Dam, Fargo usage. It just goes on and on. And when we enter into this agreement, it's probably like for life. I mean, it's going to be in there probably for 100 years, and having this level of expertise is just protecting ourselves to the most, especially having to do with the entity with water. So I'm fully supportive. I wasn't a part of the interview, but I highly understand that he would be the right person to do this, and I knew he came in recommended. So.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Veen. Further comments or questions?
Did Mr. Bean move approval?
I didn't hear him move
Well, I'll
approval.
move approval.
Moved by Osowski, second by Beam. One quick question, Mr. Phelan, from what account are we paying, Mr. Nazarenas?
Council President Sandy, we'll take it from our water funds.
Okay.
We'll pay for this.
Great, perfect. No further comments or questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nazarenas, for being here this evening.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Have a good evening. Item 2.8, off-premises sign billboard moratorium discussion. Good evening, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Chairman Sandy. I want to quickly go through a little bit on our billboard moratorium, where we're at. We have 2 new council people that have been here since this was put into place last October. And so kind of doing a quick update as to, well, what billboards are and where we're lying today. So a billboard is the off-premise sign. So we have on-premise and we have off-premise. Off-premise is really the billboards where they're advertising something that is not on that site. So that's something that we allow within our community, but currently we're under a moratorium for that. The rules that we have into place today, we allow 112. We have a cap that are allowed within our city. Not only the city, but also the 2-mile area around the city. That's the zoning jurisdiction that we have. That increases under our current rules every 10 years when the new census comes in. We allow additional additional 1 billboard sign for every 566 people that the census increases our numbers. The current number that we have are 103. 2 of those had recently been taken down, so there were 2 that were kind of in this no loss period. We had 1 that went down just within the last year on the North End Dairy Queen site. I think the billboard company lost their lease to that current tenant. They decided that they didn't want the billboard on the site, and I think there was 1 additional that was right in the downtown here, near the downtown, that had been taken down and then a new one put up just on the adjacent property. So 103 that are up today. The current regulations are the signs must be 500 feet apart. Many are closer than that, but those are grandfathered in. So if you take a look, I'll use the corner of Washington, Demers. There are many within 500 feet, but those are all grandfathered in. Height limit on those is 50 feet. All new signs must be on a single pedestal pole. Not all of them out there today are, but all the new ones are that are put up. Electronic signs must be 100 feet from 1 or 2 family dwellings. We've had a few of them that went up along Washington that were close to that. We had to do the measurement, but they were okay, just because I'll use that old milk carton Valley Dairy. Right on the back side of that, across the alley, is a single family home. So there was some measurement that was done. It was within that area. Other than the above, no additional limits are in place that exist between static and electronic billboards. The billboard regulations for zoning. So we do our zoning based on, or the billboard regulations are by zone. So if you're within a B3 district, that allows for a billboard up to 300 square feet in size. In the I1, I2, they're allowed to go up to 672 square feet. Commercial billboard PUD areas along South Washington. This is a relatively new change. Those also allow billboards. And then all billboards on South Washington Street require P&Z and City Council review. So that was a quick introduction. I just wanted to get, kind of bring this back to the forefront. We did have a safety study that was done as well. I talk about that a little bit in the staff report. We did a review of a site, a particular electronic billboard on a major intersection in Fargo. We had good data from that one, so we wanted to make sure that there was not a safety concern there. So we had good data, historic data, and it found that it did not deteriorate the roadway safety there. So that was one concern that we had when that moratorium was put into place. We got that safety analysis back in May, and we wanted, at that time, just due to the timing of the election, we didn't want to bring that forward at that time. So that's why we're here today. With that, there's some questions that we kind of have in that staff report, just looking for a discussion from council, direction on the next steps that you would like to see, ordinances passed, that type of thing, and staff is willing to draft whatever you'd like at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Ms. Lansky?
Can you explain, so you said it's 500 feet between two?
Yeah, the new requirement, so any requests that we have for a new billboard, they are required to be 500 feet away from existing one.
So can I just ask, like the downtown one you brought up, one came down, a new one was put up, and then another one went on that old existing, but they're closer than 500 feet. Were they grandfathered in?
No, that one that was put up is actually an on-premise. So that one just is Wayland's. That's an on-premise sign. The requirement for 500 feet in between are in between off-premise billboards.
Okay, that makes sense. And then for the new council members, can you explain the difference between Columbia and Washington? What can go on Columbia and what can't?
So on Columbia, that area is all PUDs. Those are not allowed. So within our existing PUDs on Columbia Road and 32nd, we do not allow billboards. The only place where that's permitted is along South Washington with City Council's review.
And then do we have any guidelines of what they need to look like or maintain? I know Ms. Osowski brought it up last time we talked about it. It was a non-digital sign that was kind of falling apart. Do we have any restrictions or guidelines for any kind of signage?
So yeah, any sign that's falling down or in disrepair, we do have codes that building inspections does go out and make sure that it's, if it's falling down, they do have the ability to get that repaired, require it to be repaired or taken down.
Thank you.
Further, yes, Mr. Veen?
Yeah, Ms. Brooks, what about interstate? Who controls the signage on billboards on interstate?
So the city controls those distances apart. There is a application that the state does require with billboards, and there is a section for the city to sign off to make sure that it meets the local zoning local controls. So there is a piece to every application that is done to the state just to say, here's the zoning and does it meet our requirements? So the interstate's no different. It does meet that. So the state does allow the city to, if we wanted, say that they had to be a mile apart, then the state would defer to us on those requirements within our jurisdiction.
Further comments or?
I have a question.
Mrs.
So if they take down like a regular billboard and they want to put up a digital billboard, will they still have to come to council for approval? When exactly do people have to come and get approval? Just for new ones?
Just the times when they come before city council right now are just those ones along South Washington. If anywhere else, they would not come under the current city code. None of the rest of them would come before city council under the current city code.
So only ones on Washington, but if they replace an existing billboard, do they have to come and ask our approval?
Not replacing an existing, but if they were to take down an existing non-conforming, they wouldn't be able to just put up a new one.
Okay.
If they are converting to electronic, nothing, the pole doesn't come down or anything else. Under our current regulations, they're able to do that.
Oh, so they are able to switch it out then
They are able
for
to
an electronic one. Can we make it that like everywhere in town has to come for our approval, not just Washington? And also maybe if they're going to change the actual billboard, from a plain Jane one to a digital one, like, could we have them come to us for that also?
Yeah, I think you could come up and have that as a requirement. I think the one thing I think the companies and we would want to do is just what rules, what would be in place, what metrics would we be looking at? We could increase that distance between electronic. I do have a concern that if every billboard on Washington and Demers was converted to an electronic,
Right.
I think we would all say that there would be a problem with that. And so I do think that we probably need to at least look at that, what our distance between those are and the conversions of existing signs.
I agree with that. Maybe look into the distance between the electronic ones if they want to do that. I guess with the ones that are already there, if they're taking down their crappy ones and putting up a new one, I don't have an issue with that. But the last thing I want is all of them converting to digital and we just have a giant flashing street. So, thank you.
So then,
Ms.
for,
Berg?
thank you.
No problem.
For the, like the B3, the general business district, is it just first come, first serve, or how do we approach that?
Well, first, we have to have one of eligible, right? Because we have an overall cap in the city. But if there was a desire of somebody who has an existing one that's maybe non-conforming and they want to move it to another location, then yeah, it's the first come, first serve. So once one goes in, then there can't be another one within 500 feet of that. So it is kind of a first come, first serve. So there has been some property owners that have been, well, wait a minute, as soon as that one goes on the neighboring site, now I'm not able to put one on mine. And the money, the monthly payment, whatever it is that they work out that we don't see, somebody could be out if the neighboring property wanted to have one on there, so. But it is first come, first serve. Once that one goes up, you can't have another one within 500 feet.
Yeah, Ms. Linsky?
What is the current time that is restricted between ads?
I believe it's either 6 or 7 seconds that the hold time is required, and that's on off-premise. If it's on-premise, then it's a second. So I'll use, let's say it's a restaurant that's advertising for themselves. They have the ability to go every second. Those are much smaller signs, but those do have a different run, and it's usually meant that there's traveling, cars going by, they can advertise their specials. It is supposed to transition in I can't remember how we have it written, but it's a smooth transition. It's not meant to be, flashy as it goes, switches between, but the billboards, I think they do a good job, one, and then on to the next. There's no flashing in between, but it is a different hold time on those. They're much larger though, too, as well, so. I wanted
And
to
then
make sure I point that out.
if a non-conforming sign comes down, how are companies notified that a possible digital sign could go up?
The billboard companies?
Yeah.
So there's 2 of them. I think they're in attendance. They're very aware of the rules. So I mean, as soon as one comes down, usually that owner holds to the next. And I think that's probably the last series of changes that we had. I think was really we had one operator in town, and we had another operator trying to come into the community. And I think at that time, as I recall, that was kind of we probably need to make this made some changes to code to maybe lessen some of the restrictions that were out there. And I think maybe now it's kind of like, well, maybe we went too far. Even, staff has looked at that and said, well, maybe we need to look at that and take a look at those distances between definitely the electronic, because otherwise I think there's a lot of changes that we're going to have coming up, and it's going to be a lot of those switches to electronic. The billboards themselves, very expensive, so as they start to put those into place, I think they'll tell you that they really have to look at that dollar amount and make sure that they can sell the advertising, because those boards are very expensive, those electronic ones.
So one idea I had is we have a downtown design and review board for signage. Could the city have a digital sign review board?
For off-premise or for all signs?
Maybe for all digital signs, just until we kind of get it flowing and
Yeah, that's not something I'd thought of, but yes, that's certainly a potential that we could look at a subcommittee potentially of planning and zoning, which is typically handles a lot of the sign appeals, and look at something like that.
thank you.
Good information, Mr. Brooks. I think philosophically, I mean, if you think of it logically, the sign companies probably stand to reduce costs over the long run and therefore increase profitability by changing from static signs to electronic signs. My guess is that the billboard companies are going to ultimately want to change every one of their billboards to a digital billboard because that's the way they make the most money. I, for one, am not interested in changing our static billboards to digital signs because I think they're too noisy. I think, again, this is just my personal opinion, and I'm just one vote, but I don't think it's necessary. I mean, billboards started by being out on the highway trying to direct people into your community, right? There's a McDonald's 4 blocks away. Come on in and get a cheeseburger and take a rest. The billboards weren't intended on being advertisement central for inner city businesses. That wasn't the intention, but people have made a living off of them, right? So that's why we have them. I for one just don't see my personal opinion is it's not necessary to change to digital signs. I would like to see us change the ordinance to cap the total number of signs at the number that we have today. I don't think, unless Mr. Gosted has additional thoughts, I'd prefer to see us figure out how to get rid of all the billboards, but I don't think that we legally can do that, correct, Mr. Gosted?
It's a bit of a problem with respect to property rights and the compensation that may be due if we do something like that. So I think capping is fine, but removal is a totally different issue.
Thank you, Mr. Gosted. So, again, I'm just one vote, and this is my personal opinion, and I know that there are other people on the council that don't mind the digital signs, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. In my perfect world, we would cap it at 103. I'd like to see us, so, Mr. Brooks, what I wouldn't want to see is what happened with Wayland's. I would not want to see that happen again, because I think that goes against the spirit of what the council and what our sign code says. I recognize that one's on premises and one is off premises. I get that. But I still don't believe that having an electronic billboard covering half of another billboard that's a static on premises sign, I just don't think that was the intention of what we try to do. So I get these things happen. I would like to not see that happen again. So, again, I'd propose that all billboards ultimately be reviewed. If people disagree and we are gonna allow for more billboards, I would like the city to have a look at any billboard, the planning and zoning and city council look at any billboard. And anytime we're gonna change, or there's a proposal to change from a static billboard to an electronic billboard, I think it should go through both planning and zoning and city council. Those are my personal opinions, and I'm open to other people's ideas.
Are you making a motion for that?
I would entertain that motion if someone else wanted to make it.
I'll motion that, exactly what you said.
Okay.
So we'll put a cap at 103 until further notice, and all billboards need to go through planning and zoning and the city council. I don't think there's a need for another subcommittee. I think that we can handle it.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Veen. Is there further discussion? Yes, Ms. Lensky?
It's not a secret that I like billboards. I think from a marketing perspective, it's very, very hard to reach people. It gives people who are in marketing a different way to get their message out there. I think going digital is kind of the way of the future. I think it's inevitable. I'm sure it's hard to find people who want to go up in 20 below weather to change a paper billboard. I don't even know how they get the glue to stick, but that's not my issue. I just have a question. The 103, we're capping it. Is that until we have a new census, or is that forever? Obviously, we won't all be here forever.
Yeah, I think it would be until the next time some council decides that they want to change the number.
So would it come up to the next council in 8 years or whenever the census is to redo it, or would the council have to bring it up?
I think the council would ultimately have to bring it up under the current motion and second.
So is there a need to change it if it's not going to change when is the next census?
Well, it's currently, there are 103 up, but our current ordinance says there can be 112.
And we've capped it at 103.
Well, through this motion, we're capping it at 103. Yes, Mr.
Thank you. I
Gusted.
just have a couple of thoughts as you're struggling with the motion, is what I wrote down as various notes about distances for electronic billboards from another billboard was one of the comments. I wrote down a kind of a conversion ratio, meaning a percentage of electronic billboards compared to in a total of the 103, because I think there was some discussion about how many electronic billboards would be allowable if you changed it out from a static to an electronic. So in my mind, I was thinking a conversion ratio. Some sort of, I think the comment was made, a digital review board, and then the cap at 103, and then planning and zoning and city council. Those are all really great thoughts. And I think it behoove the planning and department to come forward with those ideas in an ordinance methodology, because this is, rather than, taking 1 and 2, 103 and city council review, because there may be other thought processes here that you might want to consider, like the distances, how many of electronic and things like that we could present as a total package to the city council for review in a single ordinance, because you do this tonight, I'm thinking there may be another presentation for further review of the entirety of the ordinance to incorporate some of these other thought processes. So I'm not trying to discourage any type of vote, but I'd rather be able to present the entirety to the council for your consideration, based upon the comments that were made tonight, as one ordinance. And you can always pick apart and decide that part of it is not going to be acceptable, or this part would be, if that's the preference for the council.
I think that makes perfect sense, Mr. Gusted. So I think generally speaking, though, if the council doesn't want to change the ordinance, we shouldn't have you and the team waste your time. So perhaps we should get a head nod if we're in agreement that we should bring an ordinance change. And then if we do, perhaps we'll rescind the motion and second. But if 3 people up here today say that they don't want to change the ordinance, then let's not waste the city attorney's time. So are there other people that want to weigh in their thoughts if they are in agreement or not?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Berg?
I have a question just on if you're talking about off-premise or on-premise.
This would
Or
be,
all.
this would be off premise.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess without people raising their hands saying they aren't interested in changing the ordinance, then I think we'll move forward with changing the ordinance unless,
I would be
again,
interested.
Ms. Berg, yes?
Oh, thank you. I would be interested in seeing not necessarily put a cap, but maybe have some further direction on spacing between potential changes from the static billboard to an electronic one and looking further into that.
Thank you. Further? Yes, Ms. Lansky?
Okay, so explain, are we going to vote? Or are you
I
going?
think we won't vote, because I would agree with Mr. Gosted's philosophy. Picking and choosing at this minute probably doesn't make sense. We should have them do a bunch of work and then pick and choose.
So if
But I'm
the-
trying to avoid them doing a bunch of work if more people don't want to change than do. That's all.
I'd like
Does
the
that make
ordinance
sense?
to be changed. I'd like
Okay.
to see some changes made to the
As would I. I think Mr. Veen would as well. Ms. Berg is halfway there. Okay, so I think that's probably enough to say, let's take a look at it. Okay. And then we can have further discussion when it comes forward, because I'm sure we're not all going to like everything that they're going to bring, and hopefully we can find a good compromise. So would you be okay, Ms. Osowski, rescinding your motion?
Yes, President.
Mr. Veen, your second. Thank you very much. Awesome. Further comments or any questions for the good of the order? Great, good discussion. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Where are we? Okay, under item 3, informational items, 3.1, yard waste and snow storage site planning. Evening again, Ms. Lipsch.
Chairman Sandy, members of the committee. A few months ago, the Public Works team and the planning team led by Ryan Brooks met to discuss the southerly growth of the city and how to best manage the needs of the city residents when it comes to yard waste and snow storage sites. And so as far as yard waste goes, residents have 3 options. They can bring it to the landfill for free, they can use one of the many yard waste sites throughout town, or they can use the curbside collection, which starts the week after spring cleanup. At the landfill, the yard waste is used as a beneficial use material, typically for cover at the municipal solid waste landfill. Maintaining 9 yard waste sites throughout the city comes with a few challenges. These are the most common complaints and/or concerns that we receive at Public Works regarding these sites. The school sites we receive the most concerns about as far as the safety of the children due to the proximity of the playground and kids playing on or near the containers. The 47th Avenue site near Lift Station 26 receives the most complaints, more so due to access than anything else. We see a lot of parents parking at that location when their kids are having activities at the adjacent park. And it's a smaller site, so size is an issue at that site. And we get complaints from the southern neighbors of that site because of blowing debris and items leaving that site. The North 3rd Street site has had some issues with pet feces and also sees a lot of East Grand Forks residents. Currently, East Grand Forks residents have to pay for that service in East Grand Forks. So that gets to be problematic for that site. I split the city up into thirds to try determine which sites we should look at, which sites we should look at keeping. Demers Avenue North has 4 grass and 4 brush containers located within that area. Demers to 32nd Avenue has 8 grass and 4 brush containers in that area. And south of 32nd Avenue, we only have the one 47th Avenue site. So as you travel south throughout the city, generally the lots are larger towards the south end of town, and as a result produces more yard waste. So the shortage south of 32nd Avenue is problematic. Here's a map, quick map to look at. The schools are in red color, and the proposed new site is in purple, and all the other ones are listed there in green. This is a graphic that shows you the the grass by tons per site. You can see the highest number site is the 47th Avenue site, which surprised me when I looked at the data because it is such a small site. There's only 3 grass containers there. But it's the busiest, but yet we get the most complaints about it. There is some illegal dumping happening at that location. The second largest site is the 5th Avenue site, which has the 3 grass bins and 4 brush bins. And I think services a large portion of the north end and central portion of the city. So the site we thought might work the best is a site next to Lift Station 39. It's south of the First Presbyterian Church. The west area of the lot is zoned commercial. So there's commercial on the west, there's the lift station on the east, and then there's the storm pond across the street. So this site is proposed to have 4 brush containers and 3 to 4 grass containers, depending on how we configure it. The estimated cost is around $230,000. That does not include land acquisition costs. The proposed opening would happen when the 47th Avenue interchange at I-29 is open. That's what we're planning right now, or hope to plan. And I'll stand for any questions on yard waste unless you want me to move right into the snow removal stuff.
Yes, Ms. Lunsky.
On your map, there was purple stars and red stars and green stars. What was the red stars?
The red stars are the schools, the 2 school sites.
Schools. Gotcha. And so when you say there's pet feces, is that, what are people doing?
They're either leaving the bags lay around or they're taking their dogs on a walk, and that seems to be the area to use as a bathroom.
We have a lot of people in my neighborhood who think trees are a good place for those pet baggies too. And then I have one more question. I just got a call about it. Someone put their yard waste out and it was never collected. Is it on the same day as your garbage pickup?
Correct.
Is it early or later or?
It's at whatever time they get there.
And what happens if it doesn't get collected?
Then they should call our office and we will make sure it gets collected.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Further questions about yard waste? It's nice to hear, Ms. Lunsky, that there are bad people all over town, not just your neighborhood or your neighborhood. Thank you. After you.
All
Ms.
right,
Lipps.
we'll move on to snow storage here. So I'm not sure if any of you have had come across the Public Works team while they're moving snow from berms, but this is kind of what we do and why we do it. Our most skilled operators are the ones operating the motor graders to pull the snow into the street. We use the snow blowers that are on the loaders and blow it into the trucks. And we have 6 to 7 trucks that haul that snow away to the closest storage site. It takes approximately 1 minute to load a truck with a snow blower, which is kind of crazy, and 30 minutes round trip for that truck to get back to that site. So having multiple sites makes the operation more efficient, saves on fuel, equipment wear and tear, and labor costs. And why do we move the snow? We get that question a lot. There's berms throughout town that don't have enough capacity when we have the big winters. Sidewalks that are right adjacent to the street, so there's no berm. And we see that in Maine's residential and downtown. We move snow around mailboxes, intersections with poor visibility, downtown alleys with no snow storage, and parking lots and ramps downtown. So here's some data for you. As you can see, hauling needs are very dependent on the weather, as this chart shows you. I'll just mention in 2023, which is one of the biggest years we've had, the city was awarded just under $475,000 from Senate Bill 2183 for the 2022-23 winter as part of the statewide disaster. So the current snow sites, this one is on North Mill Road. You can see most of the snow north of 17th Avenue South gets hauled to this snow storage site, generally speaking. The next map shows you the industrial park here. Eventually, we will use this site as future development goes there. And that is from Columbia West generally. And from Columbia East, we haul down here to the Grand Forks Public School lot. We maintain the lot in the summer months, so they let us use it for snow storage in the winter months. And then you can see here, south of 62nd Avenue, just off Belmont Road, is our proposed site location.
Are we planning on purchasing that land?
Yes. So the Public Works team would like to purchase the property, so developers know about it well in advance of any developments. It would not be used until one of the other lots are lost to developments. And there's lots of options we have. You know, we can push the piles up like we do on the north end site, or we could, at the school site currently, we just dump the snow out of the trucks and we don't push it up, so the snow it melts faster in the spring. For reference, on the North Mill Road site, in July last year, there was still snow there. On the school site, we were mowing it in June. So you can see by not piling the snow, it does go away faster. There is already a storm pond adjacent to the proposed site. There's some concerns about debris coming in from the snow melt, so we'd have to make sure we manage that site very well. But we wouldn't be using the site until it would be needed. So I'll stand for any questions you might have.
How many acres of property are we?
Well, what we're proposing is that it would be the same size of this existing snow storage site, which I don't know, Ryan, I don't know if you know the acres off the top of your head. I don't have that information. But it would be very similar to that school lot, which isn't overly large.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions?
So if we decide to move forward with either of these sites, we would have to come back to you with a staff report to purchase the property.
Sure.
But we just wanted to get a feeling from you if this is something you would like us to proceed with and work on in the future.
Yes, Ms. Lansky.
But you're not giving us a price for this land?
I don't know until we didn't start any negotiations with them until we know this is the direction you want to head.
Is it for sale, or are you going to approach them?
I think Mr. Brooks talked to them and mentioned that we were going to be discussing this particular parcel as far as the snow site and the yard waste site.
I mean, it's really hard, I guess, to make a decision without a price.
Right, and that will be coming in the future.
Okay.
It's about 30 grand an acre right there.
And how many acres, we're not sure?
5
5?
acres.
And then that would be for sale, so if a developer wanted to purchase it, then we would have to come up with another option, or it's?
We would like to permanently have it be the city snow site.
Are we going to pave it or just keep it grass so we get the runoff and absorption? Sure, makes sense.
The current one that we use is grass and we mow it.
Got it. Mr. Veen, yes, sir?
Are there health department regulatory requirements for a snow dump?
Not that I'm aware of. Oh, it would be, yeah, you'd have to follow the stormwater rules like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there may be some requirement for retention and drainage and all of that would go.
Correct, we
wherever
wouldn't want the
put it.
snow melt running directly into the storm pond without removing debris and things like that.
Also, although there'll be a cost, there'll be a return on that investment with the efficiencies that we will have with snow removal too. So you will be able to be much more quicker, efficient in removing because you won't be waiting for a truck to come, right?
Correct.
So there's that added benefit for having more snow dumps.
Correct. We'd also like to see one on the west side of I-29 at some point in the future too, as we lose the industrial park.
Did we used to have one on 40th Avenue South?
Maybe before my time.
I think that lot has been redeveloped. Used to have a large dirt pile in there too.
Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, is the yard waste and the snow removal or the snow site, is that the same site? So,
No.
no?
No, the yard waste would be a different site. That would be, have a concrete pad where the containers would sit, curb, and gutter.
Just,
And that would be south of the Presbyterian Church.
okay.
And then this one is south of 62nd on Belmont Road.
And with the proposed new yard waste, do we have to buy that also?
Yes, the
Right.
$230,000 estimate does not include the land purchase. So I would have to come back to you with that additional cost.
For the yard?
for the land itself.
For the yard, okay. Thank you.
Okay. I think providing this service is really important to the community. There is, so you mentioned illegal dumping. There's illegal dumping that goes on in every one of these. Like every single one, there are people that are dumping things that they shouldn't. I've seen furniture in them. More often than not, there's an entire tree in the grass bin that I'm trying to throw grass into. I know that the university uses a system where they are scanning license plates on cars. Why don't we scan the license plates of the cars that are coming and going from our dump sites? And then if we have a problem, we have a record of who was there. I think we should look into what that sort of system would cost, just for our I think we should.
It might be a deterrent as much as.
That's all I'm hoping for is a deterrent. I don't want to actually get anyone doing anything. Maybe we should just put up some plastic cameras that don't actually work and see if they keep people from illegally dumping. Anyway, I think we should move forward with more research on this. I don't know. I assume others are in agreement. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 3.2, Grand Forks Homes Housing Authority Development Update. Mr. Hanson, I see you've sent us 279 slides.
I had more.
Are you, Colin, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Council President Sandy, members of the committee. For the new folks, my name is Colin Hanson. I'm the Community Development Manager with the Planning and Community Development Department. Largely manage our community development block grant funding, which is federal HUD funds used in our community. Today we have a update provided by the Grand Forks Housing Authority and Grand Forks Homes on a development. Funding for this was approved at the April 1st City Council meeting to acquire a site for the development of family housing. And Terry Hansen is here to provide you an update on their progress with this project, as well as Lisa Rotvold, I believe, with the Red River Chodo as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Hansen.
I started though.
Oh yeah, that would be helpful if I brought it up for you.
Thanks for being here tonight, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you. Now, how do I advance it when I want to advance it? Just hit that. Okay, thanks. Good evening, President Sandy and members of the council. I'm here this evening to present to you a proposed family housing development that Grand Forks Homes is interested in pursuing. And I'll just go through a few slides, and I understand I might have too many, so we'll try to shorten it down a little bit. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Terry Hansen. I'm the Executive Director of the Grand Forks Housing Authority. I'm also, in the position as a property manager for Grand Forks Homes, I'm also their corporate secretary. So when I speak on behalf of Grand Forks Homes, I do have that authority to speak in their behalf. With me this evening, sitting in the chambers, is Lisa Rotvold. She will be a co-developer. She is with the Red River Community Housing Development Organization, and she is a co-developer of this property. And why are we here tonight? We are here tonight because, as Colin had mentioned, we had applied for funding, and we had done this in the past. The Grand Forks Housing Authority applied for funding to be used towards purchasing real estate that we could then provide to a developer to subsidize affordable housing development in the city of Grand Forks. So we applied for the 2024 funding in the late fall of 2023. We were awarded and recommended to be funded for $630,000, and the City Council approved the annual plan for submission to HUD for approval on April 1 of 2023. What we propose to develop is a family property. We propose up to 60 units, and the units will consist of twin homes and townhome design, and they will be 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. So they will be 4 families, and they will be something very unique to the low-income housing tax credit program, which we propose to use, and that is using low-income housing tax credits to develop what in the industry is called single-family housing, which is either 1, 2, 3, or 4-unit structures, and then also to develop townhome structures, which means that the families that reside there actually have a front and back door to their unit. We are not proposing any apartment complex type of development. The sponsors for this project are the Grand Forks Housing Authority and Grand Forks Homes. The development team that we have put together for this project is Grand Forks Homes, whose president is James Walker, the Red River Valley Community Housing Development Organization, whose Lisa Rutfeld is the executive director, and Crary Development, who Tim Crary is the principal of that organization. What I want to do is I want to give some background of what affordable housing we have in Grand Forks today. So I broke the city, just like you did earlier with the snow and the trash. I broke it into 3 regions: north of Demers Avenue, south of Demers up to 32nd, and then south of 32nd Avenue South. The red pins indicate where today, on the first slide, where north of Demers Avenue and 4th, if you run a straight line down Demers Avenue, it's actually 4th Avenue South, so where the affordable housing is today, north of Demers Avenue. And here are just some pictures of some of the properties that are affordable housing north of that area. Winterland Apartments, Riverside Manor, and the homes in the upper left-hand corner are in Burdick Court. Those are operated and managed by Grand Forks Housing Authority. The ownership is Grand Forks Homes for Riverside Manor and Winterland. Then we go downtown and we have the Aurora and we have the Current are downtown. They are actually affordable housing. We have LaGrave on First, which is right across the street from the police department, as well as LaGrave Place, which is a family property on South 4th Avenue. Then we go to between the areas of Demers Avenue and 32nd Avenue South, and we have a number of properties there that are affordable housing. We have, and most of them, again, are owned and operated by Grand Forks Homes and managed by Grand Forks Housing Authority. We show pictures of what's called Westwood, and we have Homestead Place, and then we have Alcott Manor, which was the redevelopment of the South School. We have Continental Homes, which is the oldest affordable housing property in the city of Grand Forks. It was developed starting, I think, in 1967 by the Teamsters Union, and then we have Columbia Square South. Why I showed those properties before is what I really want to show us in the third slide, what is south of 32nd Avenue South. And today there is no family development south of 32nd Avenue South for family properties. There are, however, 4 affordable housing projects south of 32nd Avenue South. And they are Suites of Grand Forks and Cottages of Grand Forks, which are townhome designs on South 40th Avenue. There is Jackson Flats, which is on 36th Avenue South, just southeast of the Sam's Club. And then there's Cherrywood Village, which is behind Tufty Manor on Cherry Street. What we have on this slide is we're showing you the proposed location, that we have an option on the land. We have control of the land on which to develop our proposal. And this is the address for this property is 1600 44th Avenue South. It borders on the east side of the border is the drainage ditch. The north side is Toby Lane. West side is 19th Street South, and the south side is 44th Avenue South. Looking at it a little closer, it looks like this. With the city water retainage pond on the southwest corner. Just so we have an idea of why this is of interest to us, as we look at the schools for a family project and where they are. And this property with the red square is very close to Discovery Elementary School. It is very, very close to the South Middle School. and it's about what you would expect as a distance to the Red River High School in distance. What we propose to do, we have it in 2 different phases. On the property that's just south of Toby Lane, we propose to build 12 twin homes for a total of 24 units. Of that, we'll have 3 2-bedroom units, 14 3-bedroom units, 7 4-bedroom units for a total of 24 units. 20% of those, or 5 of those units, is that right? 20%? Yep, 5 of those units will be accessible units. That's why we have the 2-bedroom and 3 bedrooms. More of the 3 bedrooms is to make them accessible. Phase 2 will be everything on the south of that line. The property line for the Toby Lane twin homes will be a straight line just to the north property line of your water retention pond. And everything south of that, we're hoping to construct townhomes, and we propose to construct 6 sixplexes. And those sixplexes, again, are side-by-side units with a tuck-under garage, and we'll have 6 2-bedroom units, 18 3-bedroom units, and 12 4-bedroom units for a total of 36. And on that land, we will also provide an office space as well as community space and a playground for the children. Who is going to live in this property? This property will be entry-level housing. It will be workforce housing, and it will be accessible, available to teachers' aides, nurses, waitresses, construction workers, retail workers, manufacturing workers. If you look, because we're building 4-bedroom units, you're going to have at least a family of at least 4 members. And if you look at the graph on the bottom, your income would be $52,150, and you would still be eligible to rent a unit on that property. So we're not just for the extremely low, it's for the low-income households. Total project cost is roughly $29 million, just under $30 million. Of that, the low-income housing tax credit equity will provide about $18 million. We'll have bank loans of $4.9 million. We have applied for a Federal Home Loan Bank Affordable Housing Program of $3 million. A Housing Incentive Fund of just over $300,000. Housing Trust Fund, which is a federal program, of $3 million. Home funding from HUD, $500,000. And then deferred developer fees of approximately $245,000. Again, the breakdown for the total cost of the project is just under $30 million. This is what it'll look like, and this is how we want it to blend into the community. If you look at on Toby Lane today, Toby Lane is completely developed with twin homes. We proposed that on the south border of the Toby Lane, that development will be 12 twin home units for a total of 24 units. To the south of that, we will access the property, and the north property is just over 2 acres. The south property is just over 4 acres. We'll access the south property off of 44th Avenue South. And what I'm showing you here is how we propose, and because this property has just become available relatively recently, we haven't had much time to truly go through any development on what we propose, but it'll be the townhomes style. And it'll be side-by-side units with a tuck-under garage, two-car garage, and approximately 1,700 square feet per unit. We could, and we have talked about trying to develop it out, is twin homes, more twin homes in the south end. But financially, for the low-income housing tax credit program, we do believe that we need to get as dense, more dense than what it is than we would with twin homes. And this is just roughly what the properties, the twin homes would look like, and this is roughly what the townhomes would look like. And so I do really want to thank the City Council for approving our CDBG application for $630,000. And I want to just let you know that $630,000 will leverage $30 million. So it's a good investment for the City of Grand Forks. Any questions?
Questions from Mr. Hanson? Ms. Wasowski?
I saw that you guys own/manage a bunch of properties around town. How full are the rest of your properties? Are they 100% full?
No, they're not 100% full. They are roughly 90% full. The 3-bedroom units in town have a higher occupancy level than the 1 and 2-bedroom units. And we have done a housing study on this type of development, and the housing study is very favorable and says that we only have to use about 0.9% of the demand to occupy these units.
Do you think, since obviously the 3 and 4 bedroom ones are filling at a higher rate, do you think that you should just build 3 and 4 bedroom housing developments in this?
Well, we
Instead
could,
of
but
1 and 2? I mean,
we try to, the situation is in order to put accessible units in these developments, they have to be grade level units. And in order to, so they don't take up too much area, we're reducing those to 2-bedroom units.
okay, so are you going to build any 1 bedrooms or no?
No,
Okay,
that's not in the plan.
okay. And then, so you will build, own, and manage these, and they won't be sold to?
Grand Forks Housing Authority will manage the property.
Okay,
Grand Forks Homes will be the managing general partner of a limited liability, limited partnership.
okay,
99.9% of this property will be owned by an equity investor. The last 2 properties that we have developed using low-income housing tax credits, the equity investor has been a financial institution, a separate financial institution for each one. So in theory, the ownership really is the limited investor owning 99.9%. But that's only for the financing factor of the development. The managing general partner will be Grand Forks Homes, Inc.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Hanson, who's building the homes?
Crary Development is working with us, as he is a co-developer, and he will be working with us to build the twin homes. And then once we move beyond that, because of the funding sources we are anticipating, we will then have to go out for bid for the 36 or the 36 units to the south of that.
I think this is great, trying to find and build housing for low to moderate income people, because everybody deserves good housing. But the fastest way to get yourself out of poverty is home ownership. And so your mission is to help people get out of poverty. So why aren't we selling? What are the regulations that require us not to sell these facilities?
In order to utilize the low-income housing tax credit program, they are rental units, and they are restricted for 30 years. Once the 30 years are up, then they can become for sale units. But the initial period of affordability is 15 years, and that is how long the initial equity investor stays invested. And then there's the state and the regulations put on an additional 15 years. So we build them today for rental units, and then we will, whatever happens in 30 years from now, we'll.
Do you have any others in town that are 30 years older or older that are still rentals?
Oh, yes. Continental Home, not under the tax credit program. Wait a minute. Riverside Manor was built under the low-income housing tax credit program. That was done in 95, 96, 97. And that it will now be coming out of the 30-year period in 2025, 2026.
Are you going to sell those as condominiums? Probably not, right?
Probably not.
But you do have other...
It is on the National Register. It is a low historical building, so...
I think you get where I'm getting at here, though, right? I'd love to see you put up your rentals for sale. If you have single families, I'd love...
President Sandy, that is exactly what Grand Forks Homes is looking at. Their property is getting aged. They have a couple of newer developments. One, the most recent is Jackson Flats. The one before that is LaGrave on Foost. But they are the owner of Continental Homes. And like I said, Continental Homes was developed in the late 1960s. The next ones on 4th Avenue South and Cherry Street were built in the early 70s. So they are looking at what do we do with our properties and how do we continue to provide affordable housing to the residents of Grand Forks, and how do we, we want to expand into the entire city and not keep everything just localized in the central downtown area.
Sure, there's a shortage of single-family homes available for sale in our community, so it'd be great if the people that are currently renting them would all buy them.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Is this zoned R2, Ryan, Mr.
The
Brooks?
southern land is zoned R4.
Okay,
I believe that the strip on the north side, it's zoned two different ways, and maybe Ryan can help me, but I think the strip on the north side is R3,
but it doesn't need to go for a rezone.
No, the zoning is in place on these properties.
Great.
The only thing that we will do is we'll come back and we'll have to subdivide. Today, it's one parcel of land. We'll subdivide it just south of the twin homes.
Great.
115 feet.
Anyone else have any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for coming today. Really appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
Nice job, Jerry. I'll try to find it here.
All right. Item 3.3, Altru Indoor Sports and Aquatics Complex Update. Mr. Phelan.
Let's see here. Council President Sandy, number one, hey, thanks for allowing us to work on this indoor sports and aquatic facility. It's really unique for the city of Grand Forks, and specifically for the new council members. What we did is, and we keyed off of what the Park District already had on their website, and so I just want to go over what we placed on the agenda for this evening. This particular project. With each one of these, we went back and it was really quite instructive, because it's really impressive that we started working on this project when in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of Fufang, and then we started working on this project. So we did a lot of walking and chewing gum at the same time. This project started in May of 2022, and I think the initiation of this project is people had talked about an indoor turf facility forever. And so the other issue was that the Hislop was going to come down for a STEM and engineering center, so there was concerns about not only having an indoor turf, but also we were going to lose out on what the Hislop provides. And what I found out along the way is that you had baseball, you had various sports that were kind of being served as kind of our indoor Ritz small turf, along with pickleball and obviously the pool. So that really kicked this off right here. The Park District led the study, so they hired a national firm to come in here and do a feasibility study. It was about plus or minus about $150,000 study. The city paid about $50,000 of that study. And probably no surprise, some of the preliminary input sessions came back is that in the summer of 22 that people wanted this facility. They wanted it not only for recreation, they wanted it also for performance. And so that was some of the initial findings. And then in October, there were two surveys. There was kind of a self-selected survey, and there was also a scientific survey that went through. And more than half were extremely, or they were really we really want this facility, and that really gave us a positive feeling. They were for the aquatic center, they were for the turf, they were for the courts. The other positive, this is the first time we asked the people about the sales tax. Would they be for continuing the sales tax? And 79% said they would be for funding this facility through that Alair Center sales tax. And two of the highest rating is what people provided feedback were soccer and swim lessons. Were probably the two highlighted things that people wanted. And then Council President Sandy, you'll remember this, we had two joint meetings. We had a joint meeting in January 2023, and then we also had a joint meeting in May 30th, 2023, where we got together with our colleagues at the Park Board and had a couple of joint meetings. I think we had one here under the old school city council, and then we had another one when we were over at the Hive. And one of the things, and this kind of brought to my mind, is that when we first started this, the intent was to put the aquatic center at the attached to the Choice Health and Fitness, or to put it on campus of UND. And there's a lot, I think that now is going to be a surface parking lot that's just adjacent. It's on Stanford and University, and there's an empty lot. That was kind of the lot. So those were the two options, I would say, for the pool. And it was going to be a 25-yard stretch pool. So it wasn't going to be as long as a 50-meter pool, but it was going to have the width of it. So it was kind of a compromise pool. At the time, the turf was, we were looking at 3 locations: Choice Health and Fitness, the Columbia Mall, and I had forgotten about that, and then the Alaris Center site. And so those were the three locations that we looked at. And obviously with the mall, it was really intended, is there something that government can do to help stimulate growth and development in that area as we move forward? So really, that's what we discussed on these 2 meetings, and they were productive. And I would say the city council really, along with the mayor, really led those discussions about how we were going to move forward in partnership with the Park District. And then as we started looking at, through this May 30th, we were looking at the cost, and we even had some earlier cost estimates at that time. You know, the indoor sports was seen to be about an $81 million facility. The stretch pool is about a $29 million facility. So, you know, we were nearing our cap of $110 million at that point. We also looked at the cost to operate those 2 facilities, and that feasibility study provided that overall the cost to run the facility was about $492,000. Approximately 50-50 between the aquatic center and the turf. A little bit more for the turf than the aquatic, but we had some early numbers on how much it would cost it to operate. The other thing we did at this time is that Council President Sandy was really big into, we got to preserve the Alaris Center. So what we did is we set aside $3.75 million annually for the Alaris Center to make sure we renewed that forevermore. So at that point in time, we added, in that 3.75, it's important to note that we added another 1.5 million onto their projection, just because they had always come up short on the projection. So we wanted to make sure we set aside enough for the Alaris Center. So a lot of work went on with this feasibility study, not only trying to move forward with the facility, but also trying to keep the Alaris Center moving forward. The big meetings really came on August 14th, the 28th, and September 5th. Thank you, Ryan. Those meetings are really from really moving forward to what we asked the city council to put on the ballot, and eventually the citizens voted 66% to move forward. The other thing that we changed along the way is the turf and the aquatics were seen to move south of the Alaris Center. That was one of the big differences. We also looked at a 50-meter pool versus the 25 stretch pool was another major change in that particular time. Also, we looked at the 8 pickleball courts that would be lost with the Hislop going down. The things that we also looked at as part of the larger facility were a 300-meter track and also forward hard courts. And the 300-meter track was estimated at 20 million, and also the 4 hard courts were estimated at 20 million. With the base project, we figured we could get that project done for about 100 million. And those other 2 additions would really be challenging for us to move forward. Obviously, we were successful. Sorry for my voice here. I got some bad allergies here. But if you look through January, April, and May, we hired lots of consultants. So JLG was the architect of record that we hired. We moved forward with master planning the area with Bolton and Mink to include the Children's Museum. And then we also hired McGough and construction engineers to do our CMAR work. So that all happened in this time period. And then really what we're here for currently, these are some of the upcoming meetings that we have right now. is moving forward, and so kind of what's next. And I just wanted to hit some of the renderings for the facility. And so you can see this is the all-true facility. This would be the aquatic complex. These are the 8 pickleball, and this is the indoor turf. You're looking north and west. This is the turf facility. This is looking at the facility looking north and to the east. Again, turf, Alara Center, aquatics, pickleball. The lobby with the pickleball, turf, and then off the screen would be the aquatics. And then this is the 50-meter pool moving forward. So just quickly going through where we're at with schematic design right now at this point. We have a mission statement, and really this is bottom-up led. So this is a project where the city of Grand Forks has really helped to facilitate, where the users have really have provided us feedback on what they want from the facility. So just reading through that, we have a mission statement, conditions of satisfaction, a project overview, along with an executive summary here for your review. This is the team that you have hired to get this project accomplished. This is the timeline, and I would point to, we're asking for a special meeting on September 30th, which would be our 5th Monday, to review the project. And then importantly, on October 7th is really what we're targeting about all the various approvals. And I won't go through all the approvals, but we're going to ask to move forward with final design. We're going to ask to finalize some of the naming and sponsorship agreements, an agreement with the Park District to operate this facility. We're going to have a site master plan that includes the Children's Museum, if the City Council wants to move forward with that, along with the Children's Museum, and then also the UND Athletic Facility and Community Use Agreement. So those are all the various agreements that we intend to bring back here in the next month or so. So this is the site right here that we're looking at. And, before we looked at down in this corner, and there are all various major utilities that are in this area, so that's why the indoor sports and aquatic has moved to this location. We've done a building program, and so we've worked with all the various sports, Park District, to kind of what their space needs. And so this is an accumulation of all the various space needs and the square footage that we've accomplished as part of the building program. As part of the design process, again, it's been more of a bottom-up process of really focusing on the users, those that are going to use that facility. And so there's been a lot of listening sessions, design threads of really what they want. And some of the really the important themes are they want something that really reflects us as a local community. Number 2, they want to really have this facility activate the community. And then 3, they want it to be visionary. So they want it to really match all the great things that are going on in Grand Forks currently. From UAS development to the hospital to all the various things that are going on. And they really wanted to raise the bar on sports performance and really make our community more competitive from a sports performance and event focus. So that's really what's meant for the visionary piece of this. Here's the site that we showed you about a month ago. And you can see where the indoor sports and aquatic complex, this would be the proposed Children's Museum site down here with the various parking lots and underground infrastructure that would go in as part of this facility. So this is an architectural site plan that we intend to perfect as we move forward here in the next month or so. And this is the facility. So this is the first floor of the facility, and we've spent a lot of time and energy. And so you can see down the middle are where the locker rooms are, and the locker rooms are intended to serve the turf, the aquatics, and the pickleball in this area. The turf rights out, we've had many meetings with the various users. And so really what the baseball and softball team have asked for is batting cages. So you can see that this is the area for batting cages. You can see in this area is training on the turf. This is the, more sports performance area in this area. This is track. So we can't afford the 300-meter track, but this is meant more as sprinting hurdles. This track area right here is for the track. And then you can see, and I'll show you some other renderings, but really the turf is meant for soccer, lacrosse, football, et cetera, as we move forward. And then these are the 8 pickleball, and what we've done is we've moved the 8 pickleball more in a row, and with the atrium and then the aquatic center. And one of the things that really came up last time as part of this is, what is the seating capacity of these various facilities? And I'd like to go through that with you all today. So if you look at the turf viewing, and you're going to be able to we're going to have mobile bleachers on the turf itself, right down here in this area. You can see where they're placed in there. That's going to seat about 384 spectators in that area. And then I'll show you in the second floor how much that will seat. The seating right here, this will be for the competitors of the aquatic complex, team officials, swimmers. That will seat about 468 swimmers and all the folks that are part of swimming. And then pickleball down below here will have seating of 120 seats in the pickleball area. The other thing we've done is, because we want to raise the bar for sports performance in our community, is that these offices are obviously intended for the park district if the city council so moves them forward in operating and maintaining, but also to have space for the sports users so that we can really have them work more closely with the city, the Visit Greater Grand Forks, and the park district to really raise the bar in this area. So that's intended for them to have office space in this area. And then also to have storage area in here too for all their various gear too, to really be a good partner and have them have a location for all their various pieces of equipment. This is the upstairs or the mezzanine area. And so right now, if you look at the stands right here for the aquatics is 774 seats. And then upstairs here, you see in this area for viewing, we have an additional 104 seats for the turf in this area with the mezzanine. So you can see overall, when you look at aquatics, we'll have a little over 1,200 seating, including for the users themselves, the swimmers. We'll have 488 spectator seats for the turf and 120 seats for the pickleball in this area. And so you can see where the various layouts, so you can see how lacrosse would use this particular field hockey for the turf. It's built for high school soccer, but also you can have 3 youth cross fields also. High school football, and then again, similar to soccer, you'd also have the 3 youth side-by-side football fields too. Some of the alternates that have come up as we work through, there's a real push among the users that we would add this warm water pool. And right now it's seen as a 4-lane instructional pool. So as opposed to the pool right here, the 50-meter pool, this would be more of a warm water pool for swimming lessons for younger children, for warm water therapy, for those sorts of things. This cost, though, as we look at it currently, is about $7 to $8 million. So that's something that we're contemplating right now if we can afford. The other thing we've asked UND is in this area is, are they going to bring back UND swimming at this facility? So what we've told them at this point in time, we'll have to have a decision in September, October, if they want us to set aside some space for them for if not now, in the future for locker rooms, and that would be at their cost. The other thing we're working with UND Aerospace is a deep well in this particular area, and that would be for their space studies. That's about a $1.2 million ad to have a deep well in that area. They're confident that they would be able to find funding for that, so UND would pay for that particular thing. The other thing the Park District is at, because when City Attorney Dan Gossa and I we were down there for other business in Fargo, but we went over to the Fargo complex. Sanford Power is their performance trainer in that building. And this, we're proposing that the Park District would be the performance trainer at this facility. But otherwise, the facilities look very similar, other than they have ice sheets and we have a pool in ours. But they would like to contemplate an additional space for training. And so again, that's another $2 to $3 million add to to the particular project that we have to contemplate. So this is the mezzanine. Obviously, if you add square footage on the bottom, you add square footage in the mezzanine. And these are just some elevations for the facility, and I showed you some renderings. And then these are just some, exterior. So with that, what we intend on is, and I think I have 3 meetings. In September, we would come back with McGough and construction engineers in mid-September with a more finalized estimate for the project that you would have in front of you. And if you recall, when I was here previously, with more conceptual estimates, it was looking like the facility was going to be between about $93 million to about $107 million. And so they're refining what that estimate is at this point in time. And again, that doesn't include any of these adds, the warm water pool, and those sorts of things. So that's kind of where we were at that time. So we're going to take some additional, you're going to see additional work on the schematic estimate. And then when we come back in September 30th, not only with this facility, but I mentioned a host of those agreements to make this facility move forward, the master plan with the Children's Museum, finalize our agreement with UND so we don't have redundant. And one of the things that really came across, and I know the city council has said this, you didn't want redundant facilities. So we really got to lever all those UND facilities from the 300-meter track indoors to the track they're going to redo outside and to their current turf outdoors. With the softball complex. So those are all things we bring back in a similar time frame. And then the mayor and I have had discussions with the Park District, and right now, it looks like the estimate is that, we're going to have about 81% cost recovery on this particular facility. However, that means I'm going to say plus or minus about $350,000 loss on a facility like this. And what we've talked to the Park District is they should build that into their budgets in the future. Just like, in a similar vein, the city of Grand Forks built a Fire Station 5. And so not only do we pay for the facility, but we have to pay for the 12 firefighters are always the most expensive. So as they look out between now and 2027, they should set aside a portion of their current mills to help fund this gap so that we don't have a tax increase in this particular area. So that's when we talked about them. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I've asked the McGough where they think this estimate's coming in between 93 and 107. What they've said is, well, they don't know yet, but it's probably leaning towards on the higher side than the lower side. We also are going to have to finalize the agreement with Altru with their $10 million gift over 25 years. The mayor and I have worked with 2 other sponsors on this facility to help fund both the turf and the aquatic facility. Jim Freisted, who is a former partner in Lunseth Plumbing and Heating, has graciously provided that he's going to give a gift of $500,000 to the Aquatic Center. And so in addition to what Jim has provided, we also are looking at about maybe up to $4 million in sponsorships for those 2 facilities that would help pay for some of those intangibles that have to go into a facility. So that's where we're at in that, and we have to kind of come back with a finalized version for you that in September and October. So with that, I'd answer any questions. Council President Sandy.
Great information, Mr. Phelan. I'm sorry you're not feeling better. Questions? Yes, Mr. Fritos.
Questions and statements. So there's a couple things. Everyone I've spoken to said this is great. No one's going to deny that this is an excellent idea if done correctly. I know there can be a lot more roundtables here about this, but I've had some people approach me that yeah, this is definitely a quality of life thing, but it also needs to be a business, right? I think, we need to make money on this as well. And there's a couple things that have been brought up multiple times, at least to me, and I'll let other folks talk about it as well. Do we want to hold national level meets here? Is that one of the goals? In order to do so, there's some requirements that are definitely not in this plan. So I think if we really want to continue and look at really making this something that's a legacy for all of us in this room, I really think we should bring in some of the experts to look at what those requirements are, so we don't build it and then go, oops, at the end.
Yep. And Councilmember Friedels, I think you're correct on that. A lot of effort's gone into specifically the aquatic complex because we want to host state meets, national meets. So some of the 50-meter pool was a reason for that. The warm water pool is another feature for competitive events. Spectator seating is meant to, so that we can be competitive with state meets, and so that's all the reasons for that. The pickleball, we've gone around and around with the Pickleball Association about if what we provided here, is that tournament worthy, or is that just recreational? So those are some of the decisions we're going to need to work on. And really, the turf is meant for tournaments, and it's meant for recreation. And so that was really intended to have an opportunity for not only to have tournaments in the winter, but also to have recreational. I think the other thing we really need to raise the bar on, and the mayor and I have talked about this, is we need to support these associations, because the associations are the ones that put on all these tournaments. And certainly, we're going to build this facility, the Park District's going to maintain it and operate it, but we need to support these groups to put on the tournaments, whether it's with Visit Greater Grand Forks, the event funding that we provide to Visit Greater Grand Forks. To raise the bar, I agree, we need to do all of that to make sure that this really hums. We didn't do, when we did the sales tax, we did not do like this, the Alaris Center. The Alaris Center has a quarter-cent entertainment tax that I think last month brought in about $80,000. So that helps cover some of the revenues over losses. And even at that, if you look at the Alaris Center, I think they lost last year about 300 and some thousand. And so that's even with that quarter-cent monthly. But we're all in on that. It's not only for quality of life, but we got to be able to bring people in tournaments. And I'm really heartened, and I think Council President Sandy will remember this, is that when the Red River BMX came in here, a lot of people were skeptical if we should have provided them property in this area. And look at where they've come. We certainly were supportive, not only with, that lease of that land. We provided some infrastructure development in that area. And now here in August, they hosted a national meet. So we certainly want to do the same thing with this facility.
Thank you, Mr. Friedels. Further comments? Yes, Ms. Burke?
I am not an expert in any of these matters. I can say this is phenomenal, and as Mr. Friedolfs mentioned, wanting to leave a legacy. And with me not being the professional in knowing what is needed for all of these, I've reached out to some individuals, and I need to do more. But I've heard from maybe swimming individuals that the additional warm water pool is necessary, because right now they're not able to hold a meet because they don't have that cool down area. I've also heard some folks discuss that maybe there was another area that was preferred or wanted to be a pickleball area. That's just a question I have. I don't know that answer, but I just wanted to, I'd be remiss if I didn't say anything.
Yep. I think Council President Sandy and Councilmember Burke, I know the developer, and I believe it's a Chicagoland developer, regarding the former TJ Maxx store was looking at a potential pickleball, and I suspect they're waiting to see what happens here. The reason why, obviously, we've carried pickleball for quite a while on this facility. Number one, it provides as a multi-ages to this facility and provides as use when there's youth that are in school, and there's such a high demand. And what we've heard from all the tours that we've gone on and people that we've talked to is that pickleball, you can't build enough pickleball courts, and we are going to lose 9 of them at Hislop, and it's going to be hard to replace those. And I think the other thing we want to do with this would be a venue where you could actually host tournaments versus being in a former department store wouldn't be maybe the best venue to host the tournament. Maybe it would be, but that's really how we got to where we are today.
Ms. Osowski?
Oh, I have lots of things to say. I may be all over the place because my notes are. The first thing I want to say is I don't think we're going to be making any money on this, because if there was money to be made, I think a private corporation would have came in and put it up. Usually they're all about making money. Also, I don't think that this is going to be like a very affordable place for our citizens to just go. It will have to be used for larger events. It's not going to be someone just taking their kids there to play around, on the pickleball courts or run around on the turf, because in order for us to even break even, we're going to have to bring in tournaments. It's my understanding that there are only 36 swimmers in our community that swim with high school and the university. I think that's a lot of money to put forth. You know, now we're talking about adding in a warming pool so they can hold swim meets. Where is the closest pool where you can even hold swim meets? Does Fargo have one? Are they making money? How often are swim meets going there? I mean, has anybody reached out to ask them these things? Are we going to be competing then with Fargo? Is our facility going to be better than theirs? Have you talked to them? I'd like to know how many swim meets a year they hold down there.
Council President Sandy, Councilmember Osowski. Well, we do want to compete with Fargo. I think that's true. And, you know, look what we've done with the Alair Center. We can't compete. And so we want to compete. And the nearest competitive swimming are ones in West Fargo. That's owned, it's called the Holtberg Center. That's owned by the West Fargo Public Schools. The city of Bismarck has a facility on the campus of Bismarck State College. And then my understanding is Minot's building a 50-meter pool as part of their new high school. And so this would be to really replace the Hislop. If you look through the O&M that the Park District put together with a consultant, there's individual swim meets for the Grand Forks Central Red River teams. There's
For
also
36 swimmers?
I'm not sure.
Our community?
I think there's more than 36 swimmers if you look at high school, and the other is the Wahoos, UND. I think there's more than 36 swimmers. The other part of the swimming part is they would look at hosting regional tournaments, whether that's the EDC, and then also being in the queue for state tournaments, and then also being part of national tournaments. And if you've been around here a little while, we used to host a lot of national summer tournaments for swimming, and we'd certainly want to bring those back over the summer so that we have more traffic in our community that we've lost. And, you know, we were able to use a lot of the UND facilities, whether it's that Memorial Stadium track that's came and went, and now the track meets in Bismarck. We used to be the pool, and now it's going to West Fargo or Bismarck primarily now. So we want to get back in the queue and be more competitive. My guess is just similar to the BMX, if we build better facilities, we're going to attract more and more swimmers.
If you
because
build it, they will come?
I think that's true. And I think if you look at the BMX track, you see that. I think the other example is area football. So they've got a terrific team now as part of their users, and they tell the story they used to have 600 football players, and now they're like at 1,200 football youth players. And so if you can't build the youth, you're not going to suddenly decide when you're a sophomore in high school, I think I want to play football. And so really we got a lot of positive momentum going on in our community.
Okay, I have more questions. So during your whole presentation, you kept saying, oh, we've been talking to the users, it's been discussed, and we moved this because that's what they said. Who is they? Who is the users? Who are you having these conversations with that, I guess, I feel like we're not really involved in, I mean, because last time we saw a presentation in the pickleball courts were different, and now we have a warming pool. Like, you keep saying you're talking to the user. Who are the users? Is it UND? Is it the Grand Forks School District and the Park Board and UND Aerospace? Because if it is, why are they not funding any of this and putting up any money? UND is demolishing, their swimming pool, their pickleball courts, and now all of a sudden they're knocking on our door. They needed a loan from us to build their softball field. They got tax breaks on their Memorial Village 1 and 2. At what point is the University of North Dakota going to stand up and help us out with some of this stuff? I do not think that it is Grand Forks taxpayers' responsibility to pick up the ball because UND doesn't want to build new or they don't want to fix what they have. I disagree with that completely. Not only that, we still do not have any type of agreement in place with the University of North Dakota regarding that softball field and whatever they're other indoor sports facility. We still have nothing from that. I've been asking for that for over a year. And I know we just talked about it, but it was just, oh, we're going to continue as is in good faith. There's no agreement, no money from the university. I don't know why we're even consulting with them at all on what we plan to build if they're not going to help fund any of it. And you talk about redundancy. Well, we wouldn't have to build half this stuff if UND would take care of their own things or build their own facilities and not rely on us. Once again, they have more money than we do. The state does. I don't understand why Grand Forks taxpayers are being pushed to pay for this. Also, just for clarification, the vote that we had on this with the citizens, that the citizens voted on. Now, this is my understanding from the last meeting that we had, because I brought up the Children's Museum, and you were kind enough to inform me, Mr. Phelan, that, well, the good news about what the citizens voted on was that we could use it for any type of economic development. Correct?
I don't think I said that.
I believe that's why we were able to put the Children's Museum over there and use part of this. The citizens did not vote on the Children's Museum.
If I could, Council President Sandy and Councilmember Osowski, I think back to who we've been talking to, all the people groups that you talked about, yes, we've talked to them, and all the users, the users of the turf, aquatics, pickleball, that's probably 10 different user groups that we've communicated with, and I think we've been good at trying to give you periodic updates about where we're at. What we said about the Children's Museum is that because we didn't want it to entangle it with the sales tax, that we would, if we did move forward with the Children's Museum at this location, that we would use the Jobs Development Authority to pay back the sales tax fund so that it would be discrete and different. And so that's what we said in that case. We agreed that we did not want to take this sales tax for the indoor sports and aquatic facility and intertangle it with the Children's Museum. That's why we talked about having, whether it's...
How could it not be entangled when it's basically built on the same infrastructure?
I think because the JDA, the Jobs Development Authority, is going to purchase whatever that 4 to 5 acre
But we're the
parcel.
JDA.
No, you're the city council right now.
Right now,
Yeah.
but
So-
we're the JDA.
So the point is, we're going to use growth funds, if we ever get to this point, for this parcel, not the sales tax that goes to the Alaris Center, number one. Number two...
What about for like the infrastructure and
Yep.
all of that? You're saying that this is going to be completely separate. The Children's Museum will not be at all entangled and will not take any of this sales tax money. That's what you're saying.
Mr. Phelan, maybe, or President Sandy, could I jump in? I think you're kind of missing the chronology here of what happened. This site was purchased using sales tax dollars that was for this complex where it's currently sitting. That's the reason it was purchased, that the city owned that entire portion, which is where this building is going to sit. Land that the Alaris Center already owned is the land that potentially the Children's Museum could go on. So I think you're conflating the timeline and the chronology on that, and the city council did vote to purchase the property, which is where this building would go. Now, there's the potential that the Children's Museum could go here, which would be phenomenal. I think it'd be great to have a corridor that has lots of things to do for kids to do
Your
and families.
legacy, huh?
I think it'd be great for the whole community. Yeah, it'd be phenomenal. Now, we certainly have a lot of details to figure out, but the questions you're asking are good. The demeanor, the tone may be a little bit more rough than I would like because we're trying to get something done. But regardless of that, I think that this corridor is going to turn out great. Whether the Children's Museum goes there or not, that hasn't been decided. That's going to come back in front of you. Nobody's conflated any dollars. In fact, trying to go above and beyond to not conflate dollars seems to be, a hapless task because it's not people don't, you aren't understanding what the process is and why we're trying to play it out that way. So I think it's great. I guess I'm a big proponent of the Children's Museum. We're not even talking about that today, but I mean, at the little bit of help that we could possibly give it to have a Children's Museum here, I think would be
You gave them
phenomenal.
$10 million, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, isn't that's pretty darn cheap for a children's museum these days? But I hope that helps
Here-
the chronology. Does that, maybe there's another
Here,
question?
yeah, I have another question. Mr. Gosted, with the vote that the citizen, that we had, that passed, are we legally obligated to build anything?
You're not legally obligated to build anything. What the citizens voted on was to allow the 3/4 cent sales tax to be used for the Alair Center and this type of facility. As I understand it, the council has directed administration to pursue the construction of this facility going forward. So you're not under any legal obligation, but it sure seemed to me that the vote was directed at constructing something. So with that said, the other thing I want to point out with respect to this use agreement, there is an agreement. Because I'm working at it right now. In fact, I'm communicating with both the UND folks, the Park District, and the school district. There is a certification that was signed by the University of North Dakota, the city, the Park District, and the school district. And I'll read it, that we certify that good faith negotiations have commenced, and there is an agreement to continue with such good faith negotiations until a final agreement is reached by and among UND, the city, the school district, and the Park District on a community-based use agreement for the softball field that was just constructed, Pollard Athletic Complex, and Memorial Village 1 track facility. So we don't have the specific agreement yet, but we've got a framework that everybody is going to continue to work together. I've got to draft the agreement, and it says that we will continue on until we reach a final agreement amongst all those parties, and everybody is certified to that already.
And that's for the usage of those, correct, Mr. Gosted, for the usage of those
Correct.
facilities?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I'm kind of wondering about just even, this isn't geared towards you, even just the cost, if UND is going to chip in on our indoor turf and aquatic center with pickleball courts, has there been any talk of them making a donation to this? I mean, so far, All True is the only one who stepped up, and thank you, All True, for that. But, I mean, what about the university? Has there been any kind of talk? What about, I know that, the Park District will help us run it, correct? And so is that their only part of the agreement? What about the public schools? Because I heard we could fix Central's pool for $3 million. I'd almost rather give them $3 million.
Perhaps one question at a
Sorry.
time so Mr. Phelan can answer.
Sometimes I don't
your
even want him to
questions, right?
answer.
I can't tell whether they're rhetorical or not.
I'll take a shot. UND will be, obviously, they have their own turf facility, and so really the turf, part of the turf will really be for the community of Grand Forks in our region. And then they'll primarily use the Pollard Center. They are, if you look through the O&M, there is UND usage of that facility. I talked about the deep well. If UND wants that, Aerospace has committed to paying for that. If UND sees in the future that they want to move forward with a UND swim team, that they would pay for that addition to that aquatic center. They've committed to that, and they just have to make a decision about whether they plan on moving forward with that. So they are going to be a tenant, probably primarily for the aquatic complex. I think the pickleball will be mainly through that association and those that want to do it. And I think the turf, I don't know, you probably have 6 or 7, 8 usage. That'll be mainly community usage.
Do you think that maybe someone from the city council could be a part of some of these conversations that you guys are having with these other entities?
We have meetings coming up in September and October, and we got to be careful of an open meetings, but if I can send you when those meetings are occurring.
Thank you.
Mr. Veen, do you have comments?
Yeah, a couple. First of all, I really appreciate that timeline you put together, kind of as a reminder of where we've been and the work that's gone into it to date. I really thought that was well done, and you could go back and sometimes forget all the things that have happened to date. But I also think we're at a point now where we got to figure out how to move forward. I mean, we've got a lot of good data, we've got a lot of good information. As I look at this facility, it's really going to be a multi-generational facility. It isn't just for today. It's how we're going to do and move forth in tomorrow and beyond. And I've looked at it really with two entities, and it's probably similar to you. We need to have a highly competitive aquatics complex, not just center, but we probably need the instructional pool that we've all talked about. I don't think anybody in your committee doesn't want it. I think it's an issue of cost. And I want to come back to the issue of cost anyway, because I think we have to address that, because we have one opportunity to do this right. And if we don't, we're going to, our footprint, everything is going to be exactly what it is. So how do we have really the most flexibility in how we move forward? So I look at the aquatics complex. I got some information from Mike Stromberg today, who helped me understand. And he said, when Bismarck, for instance, built their aquatic center, the Bismarck swim team went from 85 swimmers to 350, is what they did. And they said now they actually have 100 on the waiting list. So it was more, if you build it, they will come. And that's probably what we're looking at. Now we have the university, and we're trying to look at the city's needs and the school system's needs. They're going to be huge. And we got to make sure that what we're building now meets that future need. We have that base footprint. It's not easy to add on in some cases, and that's one of those that I think we have to do. So I like what we've got. I think we need to take it maybe a little bit further to get the amenities that we truly do need. And I do think that, especially when you talk about swim lessons, we have an opportunity for some of those additions to pay for themselves. As we look at future utilization, future swim lessons, it'll be used year-round. You'll have tournaments, as I understand, year-round in the pool. It's going to be, it'll have a return for operating investment, but it'll also have return to the community with all of the economic impacts, bringing these things in. The ones that I remember back after they built the pool at UND they're now going away, there was amazing national tournaments here in Grand Forks that people went to. It was pretty good. So anyway, a little bit on the complex, on the aquatics. The other part was on the turf, and probably here's where I have a bit of a difference in what's going on. I'd like to see that be a highly usable, multi-purpose performance center. What you have laid out is great turf, but it doesn't give the level of multi-purpose that I think we could or should have. And it's really that's why I said it's not really people would say it's a track. I'm looking at similar to what UND has with their high performance center formerly, something like that, because I think it's going to always be really difficult for us to share UND's facilities. There are Division I program, Division I track and field and other things that are going on. I think it's nice to think we can share, but I don't know how practical that really is, and I'm not saying they're not intending to figure that out. But for me, if we have the multi-purpose performance center, you can do so much more than just track. You'll be able to use, you'll have things for various events. Lisa Olstead is here, gave me some information today about all the different uses you're going to have there. And it's amazing. I mean, and this is kind of like the tip of the iceberg. But even at looking at what she estimated, it's over $250,000 a year in income by building the right facility. You still want to have that football field, you still want to have the soccer field, but if you don't build that right footprint now, you'll never build it. It'll never be able to come back. So the more we could take that square footage and make it into multi-purpose so that you can do, again, more with it, I know it's going to come at a higher cost, but I think the return to us and the long-term benefit is going to be great. And it's something that I believe we're somewhat missing out on, because we have to look at the utilization. And I started looking at that, depending on the time of the year. Some of these events are primarily outside events, whether it's football or sometimes, boys soccer, girls soccer. You certainly will have some things in the winter and types of usage, but you're not going to play games in here. Your ceiling height's too low. I mean, you can't play football, and you're not going to have much for soccer, but you can do it for practice, and you can do it for the indoor things. So that's where, if you take that and make it much more multi-purpose usage, I think you're going to get better utilization, you're going to get better benefits, and if you look at the number of things, including track meets, the practice sessions that you're going to have, the camps that you will be able to have in here, especially for field events that you will be missing out if you don't have that. But you can, in the end, get all of those field events to fit in if you have the right facility. So what we have is good, but I just think that there's options here that we could get. Even walking tracks in the winter where people can walk, besides all the middle school, the high schools, the regional things that we would have come in. You're still probably going to use UND for some of those major, larger events, but here internally for us is a critical component. So as I look forward, I'd like to see us look at how we might be able to look at that. I know what you got looks good. I just think, it maybe go from good to great if we could get this other. And I know the other part is everybody would love to do it if we had enough funds, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. How are we able to do that? And I think we as an entity should take a look and see what that gap is and figure out what is it that we can do to somehow get whatever it is we need. I think some of our partner entities should be able to step forward. You've talked about naming rights and how far that would go. I don't know if there's any other grants or whatever are out there. But I think our partnering institutions, I look at the school system, which we talked about, not trying to point my finger, but they're not going to operate pools anymore. They're going to be coming here. Everybody is coming here. There's savings to some of these entities that could potentially and probably should come back as some type of capital investment in here beyond just what we are doing with our normal tax dollars. So I just I think there's still more of that I would like to see us look at.
Yep. Council President Standing, Council Member Ravina, if I could just comment that we have, I did follow up with the Park District regarding, I think they've come forward to say they'll cover the operating deficit for this facility, and they'll handle that. I have asked, would they have a capital capacity to help fund some of these things that they would like to see? The training components of the turf, the 300-meter track, and they said at this point in time they are not able to contribute capital. I did follow up with Brandon Bombach of the Grand Forks Public School District, and he didn't say no or he didn't say yes. So I think that's where Council President Sandy, the City Council, could be useful, talking with our other local government boards about how they could help partner on the capital part so that we could expand from just having a turf to having a 300-meter track with more of a performance element to it. Right now, we're a bit tapped out where we're at with $100 million, and we would love to do all those things, but right now I'm concerned if our partners would be able to come forward and help with the capital portion of it.
Mr. Veen, anything further?
I would just follow up, and I'm not disagreeing entirely with what you say at all. I think that we just got to figure out a way. It's again, multi-generational. If we're going to do it right. Let's see if we can all put our heads together and figure out something additional that might go. Even looking at the costs, I know value engineering is a significant piece of what we can take. Make sure that we are doing just that core infrastructure that has to go in now. If you build, you can't add to a turf to make it into a 300-meter track. So what do you do that you have to do, and some of those other things that could come back and be phased in over time, I think would be a better opportunity for us so we don't miss out. So.
Council President Stanley, I think to that point, I agree with Councilmember Vian that the turf has to be done right because you're not going to suddenly redo it. The aquatic complex has to be done right. And so obviously the pickleball or the hard, I mean, we've already kind of set aside the wood hard courts for basketball and volley, we can come back and do that. Obviously, pickleball is another add-on that it's going to be hard to modify the turf facility once it's built in the aquatic complex. And I agree with you. Nobody wants to come back 5 years from now to say, gosh, we should have done it that way, not the way that we did it. So that's in our mind. And when we come back in mid-September, we'll be prepared to have some of that further conversation with you.
And if I could, I'd like the question, maybe we could be there to help. Instead of just waiting here to sit and wait till something comes to us and then reacting to it, I think the idea was how are we, first of all, are we structured right to do that? Is the committee of the whole, that's fine. I mean, it's the council that will make these decisions, will make a recommendation to ourselves. Or should we try to condense that in some way? I don't really care how we do it. I just want to make sure, you mentioned to me, we don't want to hold you up. We want to be as efficient as we can when we do this. And how is it best structured so that we work together and not just show up and have the discussion, so.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
I think, yeah, we contemplated that. I know we had conversations as well as a smaller group, but I think in trying to make sure nobody's left out, I think the committee of the whole is probably the best place to continue to move forward. And as people can, we'll have to make sure there's not 4 people there, but as the meetings come up with the architects, with the user groups, youth football, lacrosse, swimming, soccer, baseball, there's quite a few of people doing really good work in the community that are trying to be a part of this, which is really phenomenal. That's probably the best unless you want to have a smaller group, but I just think so nobody's left out on the table. Probably the committee of the whole is the best way to move forward with it, unless you got to, as I think about over the last 2 weeks, that's probably changed in my mind a little bit. But that's ultimately up to you, City Council.
If I could respond to that, the advantage to the committee of the whole, if there's 3 of us there, we're not a quorum. If you have a smaller committee and 3 of you are there, you are a quorum, right? So maybe there's advantages to that. So that's why I said there's probably pros and cons, but at least it might keep us from having a quorum.
I look at the images and it looks amazing, right? It really does. When you sent that on Friday, I was like really surprised, actually. I was surprised how attractive and how amazing the facility looked. I didn't email you guys back because I was waiting for tonight to tell you how great it looks. This is just a general question and observation, though. And this goes to Mr. Veen's value engineering. I don't know what these things cost, and I don't know what it costs to put on a flat roof versus not a flat roof. To have a big, massive span of glass on the front that's going to take immense amounts of steel versus having just a nice front door. I recognize that having the facility look nice is important, but personally, I'd rather have us build an enormous tin shed that has all of the amenities that we want inside it. I would give up the look on the outside to have it have what we need on the inside. I don't know how to do that, though. I don't know how to find that balance. I'm not an architect nor an engineer. I did have a question, Ms. Storstad, when we start talking about 100 million or whatever, over how many years are we talking? How long are we paying these bonds back?
President Sandy, members of the council, what we have figured in our projections is a 30-year bond.
Okay, so if you look at the Alara Center, we've gone through our second iteration of total remodel, and we're saying the 20 more years, and so that facility is 60 years, and that was going to be its lifespan, but now we've put money aside so that we're going to be able to continue it into the future. Well, this facility at 30 years from now, when the bonds are paid, we will have plenty of money to finish doing whatever we want. I don't know how to work that out. I'd love to somehow figure out what are all the things we need and try to figure out how to phase things in over time. And 30 years is a long time to wait, but according to Terry Hansen, we can wait 30 years and then sell some houses. So it's really not that long. I'm thinking out loud. I don't know the answer to it. I want to see a 400-meter track inside this facility. I recognize that that's an improbability, but I think it'd be amazing. I do have, unless somebody else has, I have a few other questions. Yes, Ms. Lensky. So to Mr. Veen, just so you know, the revenue projections already include all the swim lessons. So putting in the heated pool doesn't increase the revenue for the facility because they're already going to do that in the big pool. I was going to ask about the school district. Again, let's say they come in with $3 million. School district's in, we're in for $3 million. Do they still then pay annually? Or are they in $3 million and then get used to the facility for the rest of, until we decide they don't?
That'd be part of our negotiation, I think, Council President Sandy.
So as it sits today, they're not coming in with 3 million, so they are paying, they're gonna pay every year or every time somebody jumps in the pool, whatever, okay. The spectator seating, it didn't seem proportional to me, but I think it probably is right, because when you're playing a soccer match, there are only 2 teams. But when you're having a swim meet, there are a dozen teams, and so they'll have lots of spectators and those. Is that why there are so many more seats for aquatics?
Yeah, you are correct, Council President Sandy. So we've gotten the numbers from the last, I think, 2 or 3 state meets, and there's more girls swim teams in North Dakota. So on average, there are around, we'll say, 800 spectators that arrive there. And then the boys are a little bit less, like 100 less. And we think with I said 784 spectator seats, but we've also heard swimming's like a track meet, right? You're not sitting there the whole time. So there are certain events where you sit, but you just need opportunities to mingle around. So I think we have enough for those major meets, looking at what West Fargo provides and what the Bismarck facility provides. One thing, that's really, I'm glad you said that, Council President Sandy. So we have a representative from the construction manager at REST. So they're going to work on some of these design about what kind of materials can we use to do some reductions in these costs, whether, hey, we can't afford this glass wall. Have you looked at this kind of siding? They're going through all that. And they're going to have a third-party estimator, too, that, works on these facilities. So hopefully by mid-September, going into October, we'll have a lot of refinement on those costs. And maybe some of these renderings, we come back to say, it was a beautiful rendering, but we had to take, these 3 things out because we found a less expensive way to make it happen.
Sure. I hope one of them includes not having a flat roof. I'm not super excited about thinking about the snow piling up there, but... So aerospace is maybe in for 1.5 million?
About 1.2.
Okay, well, let's say they're in for 1.2. Does that mean they get to use the facility for free then?
That's a good question, Council President Sandy. So right now, we ask them, we need a decision if you want to pay for that capital component of it. And, they're going to need some storage for their equipment. And we haven't gotten to the point, and maybe it's part of the UND agreement, about, okay, you help pay for it, but what's the cost for you to use that facility now too, just for aerospace? I think in the revenues over expenses, we have like the UND swim club in there for paying, but we don't have UND aerospace for paying to use that for their testing and all that sort of thing.
Okay, no big deal. I'm just curious. Then the other thing, the Park District, I really appreciate it. And again, they always show up because that's what they do. And I appreciate that the Park District would be willing to help pay for operations. Morbid curiosity, what if we have a catastrophic financial loss? 1 year, none of the events happen. Who's responsible for that? Is the Park District on the hook, or are we on the hook?
Council President Sandy, I think in the agreement, the Park District would be on the hook.
Okay.
And certainly, like any given Monday night, you can come here and ask for help, right?
Yeah, right. Like Riverside Pool.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing, did you say that there's some other group that was talking about building a pickleball inside TJ Maxx?
Yep.
Is this a for-profit organization?
It was a for-profit. So right now, they, within the TJ Maxx, or within the complex there, they have that Play It Against, I'm trying to think. Play It Sports.
Play It, yep.
And so there were some conversations about them looking at it. We found that out by talking to the pickleball club. And it sounds like from our conversations, they had put that on ice for now. My guess is to renovate that, it might be a challenge for them to totally renovate it and pay for all the capital up front. But there was discussion about that, but it sounds like for now, it's been put on hold.
I think in pickleball, you need a hard court. So I think we were in $7.5 million for that. The Shoot 360 new facility down by the Choice. Thank you. I was going to say Center Courts Plus, Fargo, Grand Forks. Like that sort of a facility can't cost more than $1 million, and you could have all the pickleball courts in the world. I can't. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why we're spending $7.5 million, or we're not letting a for-profit entity and offering them a 20-year tax abatement to make it work, because it's non-cash out of our pocket, and then we can take that money and put it into trying to figure out how to better do our own facility. I think
I had an email with the owner that the offer was to essentially build it for us to buy it. I don't remember what the number was. They didn't have interest in necessarily operating it. They wanted to do the build out for the courts and then sell it to us.
Got it.
So it wouldn't have been competing at that point, at least for that portion of the facility.
Still, I wonder if we shouldn't just examine the idea of an off-site facility. So I just can't imagine it's going to cost $7.5 million to build a Quonset for pickleball.
Yeah, I think, Council President Sandin, I think that's a good point. And you mentioned, we're going to have a debt service. One of the reasons why we're building this facility for 50 years. We're going to pay debt service on this for 30 years. And really the intent is when we design and build this is really a 50-year facility. And we want it to well outlive the debt service that we're going to put in front of, that the voters approved.
Yep. Great. Ms. Lunsky, further comment? Thank you.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about parking, and I'm sure the renderings aren't true, but we sometimes forget that we live somewhere frozen for 6 months out of the year, or it can be. And anyone who's a parent knows that running a couple frozen kids out to the car after swim lessons, it just seems like these wildflowers, they look beautiful and they'll look beautiful for, a couple months, but I hope we're thinking about more like that drop-off, pick-up kind of options too. You pick up a sweaty 14-year-old after soccer or football, and it's like, yeah, just run out to the car and you'll find me. So I just hope we're thinking about parking also.
Okay. Further thoughts or comments? Yes, Mr. V? Yes, sir?
I know that there's some questions were asked on the operations part of this, and who's going to pay for what and the percentages. I think we maybe could come back to that at some point in time, but I think we've thrown out a number of ideas. You've talked about the process that you have going forward. How can we best get involved so that we can make sure our questions are being answered as you're looking at this, whether it's the cost that you're talking about, your value engineering and all of that, that may have an impact on what the design would be. It seems to me like we should work on those sooner rather than later, and don't go too far down the road until we have some firmed up answers to some of the questions we have.
Council President Sandin, Councilmember Veen, I think there's a 2 to 3 hour schematic design review in September. So not that I think City Attorney Gossett wouldn't want us to form a committee or anything like that, but like for you, Ken, with your background, if you and a couple others would want to attend that review, and then there's going to be a follow-up review, I think, regarding the cost estimate from the CMAR 2 here in September, and certainly I don't want to break any quorum rules, but if people have specific, I think that would be best, because that's when the staff are going to see it, that's when the users are going to see it.
I guess, excuse me, we could just notice that, and then anyone could show up, I guess, would be the other option.
Yeah.
Probably for that one, it would be worthwhile.
May as well.
Yeah.
And should we do it at 5:30?
I mean, we're paying the bills, so we can do it every time we want.
Let's not do it at 5:30.
Council President Stanley, thanks for all the input. That's really helpful. We got the architectural team here, the CMAR representative, Park District representatives, and I think this feedback is really important as we work through September and October. So I really appreciate all the time you guys dedicated for this item tonight.
Great. Further comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Very, very good information. You too, Mr. Gossett, Mr. Mayor. Item 3, and for no, item 4, City Council member matters. Ms. Wasowski?
Yes, I have something. So the other day, I feel like I may have been a little bit harsh on our public transit system, Dale. So anyways, I did some research and I didn't have time to ride the city bus, but I took my 3 young children. I gave them a nice little wad of cash and I dropped them off at the bus station. My kids were like, they go, how do we buy tickets? I go, I don't know. There's the bus station. You have cash. You should be fine. They had no clue how to work a city transit system, and I gave them one goal. I dropped them off at the station because I needed them to have tickets. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. I would have made them find a bus stop. But I go, your goal is to get to the south end, go out to eat, go to lunch, and come back to Valley Middle School. And they're like, okay. So they were pretty scared. But I'm like, worst thing that happens is you guys call me, you get off somewhere, and I come get you. My 3 children, who at the time were 13, 11, and 9, figured out all by themselves. They bought their own tickets. They figured out how to buy their own tickets. They got all the way over to Culver's, where they ate lunch, and then they walked across the parking lot, had Starbucks at Target, and figured out how to switch lines to make it all the way back to Valley. And they did that all by themselves. I was really proud of them. I did give them a job, though. They had to write down how many people were actually on the city bus. So one of their buses, there were actually a total of 20. That included the 3 of them. On another bus, I want to say there were like 15. And then I think maybe on the other one, there were about 10. And so I guess I was proven wrong about how much the city bus system is actually utilized by our citizens. And I did call and I talked to Dale and just told him about the experience that I had, about the great experience that my kids have. And he did tell me, just some wonderful things and things that he does to make sure that our bus system is affordable. And so I really think that I learned something that day. My children definitely learned something. My 9-year-old, I asked her what she learned, and she told me she learned not to switch seats while the bus is moving. So, but anyways, they made it back in one piece. They did a really good job. They now think, though, they can go anywhere in the city, and they want to tell all their friends how to ride the city bus. So if you see my children on the wrong end of town, I did not just drop them off there. They now know how to work the bus system. So, I thought it was a good lesson for everybody, and I really appreciate our public transit system. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Berg? That's tough to follow.
Yes, I actually just want to thank Mrs. Sowski for sharing that story, and what a wonderful opportunity for your kids to learn. And I just want to give a shout out to City Areas Transit once again, that unfortunately our summer is winding down, but in the summer they do offer a reduced cost bus pass all summer for children. So next summer, definitely check it out. I also want to thank the Downtown Development Association and other area partners for putting on such a great downtown street fair this past weekend. Thanks.
Great. Ms. Lansky? No? Mr. Fritos? Mr. Bean? Thank you, everybody. Is there a motion to adjourn? By Osowski, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Good night, everybody.